Shalom Tetzaveh, Shabbos, Parsha Zachor. Big week this week. We're here about just 1 week before Purim. Believe it or not, we're going to have to make a decision about next week exactly where we're going to say the shir, unless we want to bring everybody in here Purim night. But somehow I think the Olam's going to be doing some other things. So we're going to find a time and place. Maybe we'll record the shir a little early next week. So Nesivos Shalom speaks about the Dalet Parshiyos. And he speaks about the Dalet Parshiyos in general, the 4 Parshiyos that we read leading up to the Yom Tov of Pesach. We read Parsha Shkolem, Zachor, Porah, and Achodesh. And the Nesivos Shalom speaks about them in general. And he tells us that tzaddikim teach us that the Shabbosos of the Dalet Parshiyos are the highest and holy Shabbosos of the year. Very, very special Shabbosos. It's not just that we're reading an extra Parsha from the Torah, but it has a lot of meaning a person could accomplish. It's a very, very holy Shabbos. And it's for a very special reason that we actually read the Parshiyos on Shabbos. The Nesivos Shalom tells us, he says it's brought down that there's a very good reason and special reason why we read on Shabbos. If you think about it, we should really read Parsha Shkolem on Rosh Chodesh Adar. Whatever day of the week Rosh Chodesh Adar is, if it's on Wednesday, so you should read Parsha Shkolem on Wednesday, Rosh Chodesh Adar. And the same would apply for Parsha Zachor, should be read on Purim. Parsha Zachodesh should be read on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Whatever it falls out, whatever day of the week, that's when you should read it. Yet, what do we see? That we do it, we read about those 4 things. We read the Dalet Parshiyos Davka on Shabbos, even though technically it's not the most correct day to read about those things. And even though, says Nesivos Shalom, unfortunately, practically, we do not do these mitzvahs these days, right? We don't have the mitzvah of Shkolem, we don't have the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, Zachor, all these things we don't, we commemorate them, but unfortunately, we don't have the actual mitzvahs these days, but the essence of the mitzvahs still exist, and they're nitzchias, they last forever. Let's explain. So through reading about them in the Torah, which is what we do when we read these 4 parshiyos, we bring out the essence of these mitzvahs, and we do it on Shabbos. We don't do it on the day. Chazal tell us that, very interestingly, that by Parsha Shkolem, which we read last week, right? Parsha Shkolem, each year, it's as if Moshe Rabbeinu is standing right there, and we're giving a Matzah HaShekel in front of Moshe Rabbeinu to fund the Hakrovas HaKarbonos. We don't have Karbonos, Moshe Rabbeinu is not here, none of those things, but Chazal tell us that every year when we read the Parshas, when we read Parsha Shkolem last week, it's as if Moshe Rabbeinu is there and we're giving money for the Hakrovas HaKarbonos. So what brings us to that madrega? What brings us to be able to do such a thing? Says in the Nesivos Shalom, that comes through the koyach of Shabbos. So we move the parsha from the exact date in the week when technically it should be read, and we bring it over to a Shabbos, and we create a Shabbos Parsha Shkolem, a Shabbos Parsha Zachor that we're going to have this week. We do all those things. We bring it especially to Shabbos because Shabbos has the koyach to bring us back to that place, to that madrega, to the nitzchias part of this mitzvah, even though we don't have the actual mitzvah. But Shabbos is able to create that closeness, that atmosphere, that the parsha is now connected to us. And it's that way for all the Dalet Parshiyos. On Shabbos, were on that high of a madrega to bring out the hashbois of the Dalit Parshas. So once again, we read it on Shabbos for that reason. And this certainly applies to our Parsha this week, Parsha Zachor. The koyach of Ra, what do we read about in Parsha Zachor? We speak about Amalek. Amalek, we know the mitzvah, the real mitzvah is to wipe out Amalek, and the mitzvah that we look at today, part of the way we look at Amalek represents the Yetzer Hara. Amalek represents Ra, things that are bad. And the koyach of Ra, the koyach of the Yetzer Hara, is extremely, extremely powerful inside every single person. In other words, the Amalek that was then, Yetzer Hara never retired. He was around a couple of thousand years ago, and Yetzer Hara came, like we say by Amalek, Asher Korcha Baderech, that the Korcha is from a lashon also of cooling us off. That when we want to do Avodas Hashem, we want to do it with warmth, we want to do it with closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Asher Korcha Baderech, that's part of Amalek. The Yetzer Hara wants to come to a person and cool you down and say, relax, chill, you don't have to do it right now. There's always tomorrow, there's next week, there's when you grow up, there's another minyan a few hours later. Don't worry, you don't have to learn it today, you learn it tonight. Take it easy, relax. That was the Amalek, and that's the Amalek that's still around today. So naturally, it's virtually impossible to totally beat the Yetzer Hara. To come to the Yetzer Hara and knock him out, deal him a knockout blow, and he's gone, that's very, very hard. The Amalek inside us is so strong that we have to, every person has to find their way just to mitigate, just to warm up again, just to push the Yetzer Hara away. Everybody has their own individual way of pushing the Yetzer Hara away to allow you to do Avodas Hashem. But the Nesivos Shalom tells us if you want a key, you want something to help you, you want to know what could help you push back at the Yetzer Hara to warm him up again when he's trying to cool you down, that's the day of Shabbos. The day of Shabbos gives us the koyach to begin to overcome that. And that's part of the theme of how Parsha Zachor that we're reading, it applies to us in more ways than we can imagine. The idea of Zachor, the idea of Amalek, is directly connected to the Shabbos, which brings us back in and warms us up and gives us koyach. We get koyach on Shabbos, l'maylo miderech hateva, whereas Chazal tell us something very interesting about Shabbos. Chazal tell us that if someone keeps Shabbos, that even if he was oived avodah zara, he's forgiven. Amazing thing. A person's avodah zara, he worships another god, but Yeshomer Shabbos, yes, that's what I mean. That Shabbos has such tremendous koyach that can bring a person back, even yes, from all the way far out there. The pasuk tells us in Parsha Zachor, one of the psukim that we read, V'hoya behaniach Hashem alekecha lecha mikol ha'evecha. Misaviv, right? We said that Timcha Zech Amalek, that pasuk, V'hoya behaniach Hashem alekecha. The word behaniach could also mean, says in the Nesivos Shalom, it could mean, and it's giving us a hint and telling us, how are we going to behaniach? How are we going to ever be relieved of this Amalek? When are we going to be relieved from all our, quote, enemies? Behaniach hints to the Shabbos, Yom Menucha. The same Shoirish, V'hoya behaniach Hashem alekecha, it's telling you a key. It's telling you, Yom Menucha, that it's on that day of Shabbos when you can be meniach and let go of all the things that are naturally and holding you back the whole week. And you're fighting with the Yetzer Hara a whole week, and there are things that withhold us from fighting with the Yetzer Hara. But when it comes to Shabbos, we can accomplish what we need to. Hashem gives us the Yom Menucha, which is a special day to open up your mind and come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this man that's actually Misugal from Mechias Amalek. We read about Amalek. We read Vayavoy Amalek, a different parsha, the end of Parshas B'Shalach. We read on Purim But that, okay, there are some shittas who hold that if you miss Parshas Zachor this week, it could be Yotze on Purim by that Kriya. But the bottom line is that is done on the day of Purim when it's the real day to remember about Mechias Amalek. But yet we come and we read it on Shabbos. The Shabbos, because on Shabbos that's the connection. That's what it means. The Dalet Parshas, we put it on Shabbos because Shabbos actually gives us the koyach hatoiv wins out on Shabbos. The Milchama with Ar Amalek, the toughest battle of all, can be won with the help of Shabbos Kodesh. It's a Milchama of Ruchnias. So Shabbos is what helps with that. And the Medrash in Parshas Kiseitze, the Medrash tells us that there are two Zachors. There are two Zachors in the Torah that are Zeh Le'uma Zeh. One counters the other. And the Zachor of Amalek, right? We know Zachor, Eis Asher Asa L'cha Amalek, Baderach B'Teis Mitzrayim. That's the pasuk, first pasuk that we're going to read this Shabbos. That's one Zachor. And there's another Zachor in the Torah, the same word, Zachor, which you say by Kiddush Every Shabbos, Zachor es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadashoi. Says the Medrash that one Zachor is the one that counters out the other Zachor. You want to be able to, you're going to remember Amalek. Remembering is nice, and remembering is good, but the actual idea is to beat Amalek, to knock them out. How do you do it with the other Zachor? The Zachor in the Torah, Zachor es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadashoi, the Zachor of Shabbos is what directly counters the Zachor of Amalek. And all the brachos and all the hatzlacha that any person has, Beruchnias and Begashmias, come from the Shabbos. We mentioned that Zohar many times over. The Zohar tells us that any brachas that a person has during the week, any brachas that a person has in their life, the roots of the bracha begin in Shabbos. But how do you get roots? We have to plant. You have to work on the Shabbos a little bit. Besides Shmira Shabbos, which we said that if someone is Shomer Shabbos, even if he's Oyred Avodah Zarah Chas v'Shalom, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgives you. Besides that, besides the Shmira Shabbos, we also have to remember what Shabbos encompasses. There's the Zachor part of Shabbos, there's the Shomar part of Shabbos, to make sure to know Hilchas Shabbos for the Shomar, Zachor, to be Ma'aniges HaShabbos. Ma'aniges HaShabbos means to delight in the Shabbos. Ma'aniges HaShabbos, we mentioned a couple of times. Some people think Einik Shabbos means that you have to be Ma'anig yourself. That you have to make yourself happy. The more kishka and the more sleep you get on Shabbos. Oh, Einik Shabbos. Yeah, but what does Shabbos think of you? You guys laying there, just had 8 cups of wine and a ganze kishka with the whole thing, and he's honoring the Shabbos. No, that's called honoring yourself. So the entire Shabbos encompasses knowing Hilchas Shabbos. How do you act at the table? Do you speak Divrei Torah on Shabbos? How are you bein Adam Lachaverei on Shabbos? Do you greet people nicely when you're going into shul, when you're going out of shul? Everything, Shabbos Kodesh, has a lot of different parts to it. And it's all those parts together that if we concentrate on them and we learn them, Shabbos helps us do the battle with the Amalek of today that every person has inside them. So Hashem gives us eitzos. Hashem gives us eitzos and tools to do that battle. So let's keep that in mind on Shabbos, that this Shabbos itself, when it comes to Parshas Zachor, let's remember what a special opportunity it is to do it on Shabbos, and why we do it on Shabbos, and how much the Shabbos Kodesh can help us. Everybody should be zoicha to do the mitzvah of Zechiras, Mechias Amalek. We should taka be zoicha in our days to see the actual wiping out of Amalek, and Klal Yisrael, we should taka have Yeshuos and get chizuk from the Shabbos and Parshas Zachor. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you especially to our camera crew for tonight.